They say every love story has its breaking point, but for Jelly Roll, that moment didn't just test his marriage, it almost destroyed everything he'd built. The country rap star, known for his raw lyrics and even rawer honesty, just dropped a confession that shocked fans everywhere. On a recent podcast, he admitted to doing something he once swore he'd never do, betraying the one person who stood by him through his darkest days. For years, Jelly and his wife Bunnie Xo were seen as the definition of ride or die. From wild beginnings in Vegas to walking red carpets and topping charts, they seemed untouchable. But behind the smiles, there was a truth that no one saw coming, a secret that would almost tear their world apart. And when Jelly finally opened up about it, his words stopped everyone in their tracks, because what he revealed wasn't just about cheating. It was about guilt, pain, and the brutal reality of what fame can do to love. But before we get to that heartbreaking confession, let's rewind, because to understand how it all fell apart, you have to know how it began.
Heartbreak, there was magic. Jelly Roll and Bunnie X weren't your typical Hollywood love story. They were raw, unfiltered, and real in a way most celebrity couples never are. Their journey started back in 2016 when Jelly was still climbing his way out of the underground scene and Bunnie was carving her own space in the entertainment world. She was bold, outspoken, and had that "don't mess with me" confidence that instantly caught his attention. He, on the other hand, was the rough-around-the-edges musician with a heart way bigger than his ego. From the moment they met, sparks flew, the kind that doesn't fade easily. And in true Jelly Roll fashion, he didn't wait for the perfect moment. He proposed on stage, right in front of a cheering crowd, and the two got married that very same night in Las Vegas. No fancy planning, no over-the-top ceremony, just two people who knew what they wanted and didn't care who was watching. Over the years, fans watched their bond grow stronger. They weren't the glamorous, red carpet-only couple. They were the ones laughing through chaos, posting real moments, and showing love in a way that felt authentic. To their fans, Jelly and Bunnie represented something pure, proof that even in the world of fame, you could still find loyalty and truth. But behind that loyalty, something darker was brewing, because as Jelly's career exploded, so did the pressure, the endless tours, the late nights, and the people who didn't always have his best interests at heart. On the surface, everything looked perfect. Jelly Roll was winning awards, selling out arenas, and earning respect from both the country and rap worlds, something few artists ever pull off. Bunnie was right beside him, cheering him on, running her own successful podcast, and becoming a fan favorite in her own right. But behind the music and bright lights, things weren't as picture-perfect as they seemed. Jelly was living fast, too fast. Fame brings attention, temptation, and people who show up for all the wrong reasons. And Jelly, by his own admission, started surrounding himself with the kind of crowd that slowly chipped away at who he was. He later said, "I was hanging around a bunch of people who were cheating on their wives. When I was doing cocaine, I was hanging around a bunch of people who were doing cocaine." That one sentence revealed everything: the chaos, the environment, the mindset. It was all connected. As his career skyrocketed, so did the pressure to keep up. The late nights, the parties, the noise, it all blurred together until he could barely recognize himself. He was chasing success, but losing control of the things that really mattered to him. And Bunnie, she could feel the distance. She knew something was changing. The man she married, the one who used to make her feel safe and seen, was slowly slipping away into a lifestyle that didn't include her. That's when the cracks began to show. The smiles at award shows, the public affection, all real but hiding something painful beneath. Because behind closed doors, Jelly Roll was battling demons that were about to push his marriage to the edge. And when that edge finally came, it wasn't just another rumor or rough patch, it was the moment Jelly Roll would later call one of the worst moments of my adult life. When Jelly Roll finally opened up about what really happened, his voice said it all: regret, shame, and honesty all tangled into one confession. On the Human School podcast, he didn't try to sugarcoat it. He looked back and admitted, "One of the worst moments of my adulthood was when I had an affair on my wife." Those words hit fans like a shockwave. Jelly Roll, the man known for his authenticity and loyalty, had done the one thing no one ever expected from him. He didn't try to justify it, he owned it. He said it was the first time he truly realized how badly he could fail at something that mattered most to him. He described that moment as the one that really blew me back. It wasn't just about what he'd done, it was about what he almost lost. Because for Jelly, Bunnie wasn't just his wife. She was the one who stood by him when he was broke, unknown, and battling his demons. She believed in him before the fame, before the records, before the world cared. And to know that he'd hurt her, that broke him. The couple didn't share all the details. They've kept that part private. But fans later connected the dots when Bunnie herself hinted that they'd separated briefly back in 2018. In one of her TikToks, she said, "Who knew that us breaking up in 2018, me moving back to Vegas, and you coming to get me back would have put us on this wild journey called life?" That one quote painted the picture. The affair, the distance, the heartbreak, it all nearly ended the story right there. But what happened next surprised everyone, because instead of letting that mistake define them, they decided to fight for each other. While Jelly Roll's confession broke hearts, it was Bunnie's reaction that truly stunned fans. Because instead of exploding publicly or walking away for good, she chose something much harder. She chose to heal. Bunnie has always been open about her past. She's not the type to hide behind a perfect image or pretend her life's been flawless. She's talked about her struggles, her wild younger years, and the walls she built to protect herself. So when her marriage cracked, she didn't play the victim, she faced it head on. In one emotional TikTok, she looked back on that painful period and wrote, "Who knew that us breaking up in 2018, me moving back to Vegas, and you coming to get me back would have put us on this wild journey called life?" Then she added something that stops people in their tracks. "Our castle in the sand had to crumble so we could rebuild on solid ground." That line said everything. It wasn't just about a breakup. It was about tearing down the unstable parts of their relationship and rebuilding something stronger, something real. Bunnie made it clear she wasn't interested in pretending everything was fine. She wanted to grow, to change, and to make sure Jelly did the same. And he did. He worked on himself, surrounded himself with better people, and started focusing on what really mattered: family, faith, and the woman who stood by him when everyone else might have walked away. To the outside world, it looked like they were back to normal. But those who paid attention knew. This wasn't the same couple that got married on a whim in Vegas. They were different now, older, wiser, and more united than ever. After everything fell apart, Jelly Roll knew there were no shortcuts to forgiveness. He couldn't buy it, he couldn't talk his way out of it, he had to earn it. He admitted that it took a lot of work to repair their relationship, and that work started with himself. He had to face the truth about who he'd become, and more importantly, the kind of people he was letting influence him. "I want to only be around people I want to be like," he said. Simple words, but a huge shift for a man who once measured loyalty by how long someone stuck around, not by the kind of person they were. Slowly, piece by piece, Jelly Roll and Bunnie rebuilt what they'd lost. It wasn't an overnight fix, and it wasn't easy. But every step forward brought them closer to something better than before. Not just love, but understanding. And in 2023, they proved just how far they'd come. The couple renewed their vows in the exact same Las Vegas chapel where they first said "I do" years ago, a full-circle moment that symbolized healing, forgiveness, and the strength to start again. Fans who followed their story since the early days said it felt like watching a movie, a broken love story finding its happy ending in real life. And when Jelly Roll talks about Bunnie now, his words carry a weight they never had before. In an interview, he said, "I prioritize family, and that's what anchors me down. My world shrunk when I focused on one woman. That woman, Bunnie Xo, wasn't just his wife. She became the reason he found balance, purpose, and peace." They're not perfect. They never claim to be. But what makes their story powerful is that they stopped trying to look perfect and started being real. The moment Jelly Roll's confession hit the internet, fans lit up every corner of social media. Clips from the Human School podcast spread fast, racking up millions of views within hours. And almost instantly, the internet split into two sides. On one hand, there were fans who praised Jelly for being brutally honest. They said it takes real courage to admit your mistakes in front of the entire world, especially when he could have easily stayed silent and let the past fade away. Many called it raw, refreshing, and real, saying his openness made them respect him even more. But not everyone was ready to forgive so easily. Some followers accused him of using the confession as a publicity move, pointing out the timing, right in the middle of his massive tour and new music announcements. Rumors started flying that this honesty moment might be part of a calculated rebrand, a way to show fans a more vulnerable side before his next big project. Of course, none of that's confirmed, but the speculation hasn't slowed down. Reddit threads and TikTok comment sections are filled with debates, fans comparing his words, analyzing Bunnie's recent posts, and questioning what might really be happening behind the scenes. Still, through all the noise, one thing keeps coming up: respect. Because whether you believe Jelly's confession was pure honesty or perfectly timed PR, it struck a chord. It reminded people that fame doesn't erase flaws, it just magnifies them. And for Jelly and Bunnie, that honesty might be the very thing that keeps their story alive.
In a world where celebrity couples rise and fall overnight, Jelly Roll and Bunnie Xo's story stands out for one reason: they didn't give up when it would have been easiest to walk away. It's rare to see a star admit something this personal, especially when the spotlight's already bright enough to burn. Jelly Roll could have buried the truth, hidden behind fame, or pretended it never happened. Instead, he faced it head-on, flaws, guilt, and all. And Bunnie? She chose the harder path, forgiveness, not because she had to, but because she saw something in him worth saving. That's the part that really sticks with people, not the mistake, but what came after. The rebuilding, the choice to stay, the decision to grow instead of run. Now, years later, the two seem stronger than ever. They laugh together, travel the world, and share the kind of bond that's built on something deeper than perfection. It's built on truth. And whether you see Jelly's confession as brave or reckless, it's impossible to ignore the lesson underneath it all. Everyone makes mistakes, but not everyone owns them. Maybe that's why their story resonates so much. It's not about the scandal, it's about redemption. The messy, painful kind that doesn't fit into a perfect Instagram post. It's about what happens when love is tested and two people decide to fight for it anyway. Because in the end, fame fades, trends die, and music changes. But honesty, that's what lasts. So what do you think? Was Jelly Roll's confession a powerful act of truth, or did he share too much? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more untold Hollywood stories just like this.